This is a powerful narrative about the eldest daughter syndrome, the invisible weight of being the family's emotional and financial shock absorber. Below is a deep dive into Elena's journey from being the pillar of her family to finding the courage to let the structure fall. Part 1. The Architecture of Sacrifice. The California sun was relentless, baking the asphalt of the driveway as Elena pulled in after a 12-hour shift at the hospital. Her feet throbbed in her compression socks, a dull ache that mirrored the constant, low-level fatigue in her bones. At 30, Elena was a charge nurse, a woman used to making life-and-death decisions under pressure. But the moment she crossed the threshold of her childhood home in the suburbs of Sacramento, she ceased to be a professional. She became the fixer. The house was a 1980s ranch-style home, its stucco peeling at the corners like dry skin. For the last 7 years, it had been Elena's second job. When her father, Roberto, suffered a series of debilitating strokes, the family's modest stability crumbled. Her mother, Maria, was paralyzed by grief and bureaucracy. Her younger brother, Leo, then 21, had reacted to the crisis by retreating into his bedroom and his gaming console. Elena had been the one to step up. She didn't just offer help, she became the foundation. She negotiated the medical bills, she spent her weekends scrubbing floors, and most importantly, she took over half the mortgage. "Don't worry, mija," Maria would say, patting Elena's hand as Elena wrote out the monthly check for $1,800. "Everything we have is yours. This house, this legacy, it's for you. You're the one who keeps us whole. Family sticks together, and you'll always have a place here." Elena believed her. She viewed the money not as a gift, but as an investment in their collective future. She lived in the small spare room, the one with the drafty window, while Leo occupied the master suite downstairs because he needed his space and was still finding himself. Elena didn't mind. She was the eldest. She was the protector. Part 2. The Golden Shadow. As the years blurred, a pattern emerged. Elena paid for the new water heater. Elena paid the co-pays for her father's physical therapy. Elena paid for the groceries that Leo polished off in midnight raids of the pantry. Leo, now 26, had a consulting business that never seemed to generate revenue, and he spent his days sleeping and his nights out with friends. Whenever Elena brought up the inequity of their contributions, Maria's face would cloud over with a practiced fragility. "He's struggling, Elena. The world is harder for men these days. He doesn't have your strength. Why must you be so hard on your brother? We're a family, not a business." Elena would swallow her frustration. She felt like a bank that happened to share a bloodline, but the promise remained. The house was her security. In a state where real estate prices were skyrocketing, knowing she had a stake in her family home was the only thing that allowed her to sleep at night. Part 3. The Paper Trail of Betrayal. The discovery happened on a Tuesday. Elena was looking for her father's old tax returns to help him qualify for a specialized medical program. She dug through the mahogany desk in the den, a piece of furniture she had personally polished every month. Underneath a stack of old utility bills, she found a manila envelope. Inside was a recently notarized will and a deed transfer. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she read the legalese. Her parents had transferred the entirety of the property's future interest into a trust. The sole beneficiary wasn't the daughter who had paid over $150,000 in mortgage payments over the last decade. It wasn't the daughter who had changed her father's bandages or spent her overtime pay on a new roof. It was Leo. The golden child was to inherit everything. Elena's name wasn't mentioned once. There wasn't even a provision for her to live in the spare room she had paid for 10 times over. The betrayal was visceral. It felt like a physical blow to the stomach. She waited in the kitchen, the document trembling in her hand, until her parents returned from her father's checkup. Part 4. The Breaking Point. "What is this?" Elena asked, her voice dangerously quiet as she laid the paper on the kitchen island. Maria glanced at the document, then at her husband. She didn't look guilty. She looked annoyed that she had been caught. "It's for the future, Elena. It's for the family." "I am the family." Elena's voice rose, a rare occurrence. "I have paid half the mortgage for 7 years. I've handled every repair. You told me this was mine." Roberto looked at the floor, unable to meet her eyes. It was Maria who stepped forward, her jaw set. "You are a nurse, Elena. You are successful. You have a career. Leo has nothing. He needs security. He's the boy. He has to carry the family name. You will find a husband and he will provide for you, but Leo needs this house to survive." "So my money is good enough to pay for it, but I'm not good enough to own it?" Elena asked, tears of rage blurring her vision. "Don't be selfish," Maria snapped. "You've always been so obsessed with numbers. We raised you. We fed you. Now you're keeping score? If you can't support this family without conditions, then leave. Leave right now. We don't need your money if it's conditional on you owning us." The silence that followed was heavy. Elena looked at her father, hoping for a word of defense, a sign of gratitude. He stayed silent. She looked at the hallway where Leo was peeking out from his room, a smirk of triumph playing on his lips. He knew he had won. "Fine. It's conditional, and the conditions have been met." Part 5. The Quiet Withdrawal. Elena didn't scream. She didn't break plates. She went to the spare room, packed her 3 suitcases, and took her nursing scrubs from the laundry line. That night, she sat in a cheap motel room with her laptop. She opened her banking app. For years, an automatic transfer of $1,800 had left her account on the 15th of every month. It was a digital umbilical cord that she had never questioned. With one click, she canceled it. She also canceled the premium cable package she paid for, the grocery delivery service, and the landscaping contract. She sent a short, professional email to her parents. "I am taking your advice. I am no longer supporting the family under conditions. Since the house belongs to Leo, he will be responsible for the mortgage starting this month." The first month, there was silence. They likely thought she was bluffing. The second month, the frantic texts began. "Elena, the mortgage is past due. We're getting late fees. Why haven't you sent the money?" Elena didn't reply. By the third month, the phone calls started. Maria was weeping into the voicemail. "How could you do this to your father? He's stressed. His blood pressure is through the roof. You're a nurse. You're supposed to care." Elena listened to the messages while sitting on the balcony of a small, sun-benched apartment she had rented near the coast. For the first time in her adult life, she wasn't responsible for anyone else's roof. Part 6. The Reckoning. 6 months later, the final notice arrived. Not to Elena, but to the house. The bank was initiating foreclosure. Her father called her. His voice wasn't angry anymore. It was trembling, thin, and old. "Elena, please, the bank. They're calling every day. They say we have 30 days. Leo tried to get a loan, but his credit. They laughed at him. We're losing the house, mija. Our home." Elena felt a pang of the old habit, the urge to jump in the car, to call the bank, to fix the unfixable. But then she remembered the manila envelope. She remembered the golden child who had never lifted a finger while she worked double shifts. "I'm sorry to hear that, Dad," Elena said, her voice steady. "Can't you just, one more time? We'll change the will back, we promise." "No," Elena said. "You told me that if my support was conditional, you didn't want it. My condition was respect and equity. You decided those were too expensive to provide. You already decided it wasn't mine to protect." We're your parents, and I was your daughter, not your insurance policy. She hung up. Part F. The Piece of the Aftermath. The house was sold at auction. Leo was forced to get a job at a local warehouse, though he quit after 3 weeks, complaining about the vibe. Her parents had to downsize to a small one-bedroom apartment funded by Roberto's Social Security, an apartment Elena helped them find but did not pay for. The family dynamic was fractured, perhaps irreparably. Her mother still sent occasional guilt-tripping texts, but Elena had learned the power of the mute button. A year later, Elena stood in the kitchen of her own condo. It was smaller than the family home, but it was hers. Every tile, every light fixture, every cent of equity belonged to the woman who worked for